Sorry about that, please.
All elections before like 1921, like dating back to the Confederation in 1867, were between like mainly contested between like the Liberal Party and the old Conservative Party of Canada. So that's why, again, for the recording, that there's this caveat here with federally since 1921. So what this presentation is not, I have never claimed to be like a sociologist. That's basically like this in a layman's term, like what TV presenters like mean by elections calculus or like political calculus, and like certainly like I've never claimed to be. So you're not going to get like a bunch of like precise mathematical like definitions from that field. And of course, this is not a comparison of all alternatives to first past the post that are in use or like, have been proposed. Nor is it even like an overview of all the different possible like variations in like how to calculate proportional representation, which is also of course abbreviated PR. And certainly it is not a litigation of arguments like for or against any particular like voting system. And of course there's like a whole like set of like controversy over that. There have been like voting reform attempts like both in Canada, which is like the subject of like today's talk, and like in the UK, like, and probably like not to mention like the others. And like what as far as I know, like in the Canadian case, like what have come what problems have like emerged is like basically a lack of like clear, concise like education of the voting public, of like the different like alternative like voting systems, and like basically like the goal is to use like clear and simple language, like such as like like ranked choice voting is you just number like 1, 2, 3, 4 like and so on for your like preferred candidate or like candidate preferences. And like another issue, of course, like is what happened in 2015, like 16, like early days with like the current Trudeau government was they had their government had devised like I think it was a draft survey where like some like mainstream media like pundits had like divided like the framing of like the different like questions was like really biased like in favor of like the current system, which is like first past the post. So like those are some of the problems like that arise with like when you try to litigate these things. And of course, this finally, but not least, this is only for like Canadian federal elections since 1921. Not any other states that use first past the post, and not the different provinces and territories of that country, which also like use like a parliamentary system like similar to like that found at the like federal level. And so what do we mean by like first past the post? Another like phrase that you like commonly hear like in the U.S., particularly like in the presidential elections, like is like winner take all, like or WTA, and basically like first past the post like historically came from like the concept, like similar concept like found like horse racing. Of course, like first past the finishing line or the post like wins the race. So in a similar vein, like in any like election that's run in the first past the post, like the candidate who gets like the plurality, so not necessarily like the majority of the votes, like gets either the seat or like or in this case with the presidential elections, of course, like all the electors in that state. So another way of just looking at like each presidential election is like a series of like 50 first past the post contests for each of the states plus DC, and then of course Nebraska and Maine have additional like 5 first past the post contests within their congressional district, because that's how they allocate those individual electoral votes, or at least in theory they do. And so that of course like results in like 56 first past the post like contests, which I think has been in place since 1992, I believe, in Maine. And the thing about first past the post elections is that like even small pluralities like can win. Like so, pluralities like basically defined as situation where like the candidate or like the option like receives like the most votes, but not necessarily like the majority. So like majority is like 50% plus 1. Hope that's clear to everyone. And in fact, in like the most recent presidential election, is there are 4 states where like the winning candidate only received like a plurality of the vote and not a majority. But that's that phenomenon like where like the where the winner of the election like who actually loses the popular vote, as happened like in 2016 with like Trump Clinton, is of course like not unique to like the U.S. Presidential elections. And so looking at some like rather extreme like historical examples of like first past the post outcomes and like the jurisdiction of like today's was a subject for today. Like here's like the federal seat results for like the 1993 like general election, and of course as you see here, like the liberals like got basically a super majority like in Parliament, like 177 out of 295, whereas going into this election, like the progressive conservatives or like PCs like were wiped down from a majority of like over 150 going in, and like all the way down to 2. But that of course doesn't actually like give like an accurate picture of like what happened like within the popular vote. And as you can see here, like the Bloc Québécois, like which still only runs candidates in like Quebec because of its namesake, got like nearly over 600 like seats in the House of Commons like that year. So what happened with the popular vote? Well, actually the PCs like did I would say well, because like they lost like 2/3 of like the popular vote from like 1988, but like not as bad as like seat counts might indicate, which is like less than 1% of the seat count, versus like 16% of the popular vote. And actually, since of course they had ran candidates like across the entire country, as opposed to like the Bloc, which only ran in like Quebec, they actually like outpaced the Bloc in terms of like the national popular vote share. But the problem is because that electoral support by the PCs like so like so spread thin, whereas the Bloc's was geographically concentrated within Quebec. This is what happened with like the discrepancy between like the actual seat proportion of seat share and the share of the like national popular vote. And of course, like the PCs were punished by like about 15% underrepresented versus what like a hypothetical like straight PR like result would bring. Whereas the winners, the liberals, like got like nearly like a fifth more than like the popular vote would actually indicate. So actually, like in recent living memory, that isn't actually like the most like extreme example that I can think of in federal elections. We have Quebec in like 1980. This should be full screen, and of course, like it was like a near like how do we say, like a clean sweep of the province by Liberals, like 74 out of like 75 seats in total. But actually, the popular vote was still like only around like only saying quotes like 2/3 of the popular vote. Whereas if you compare like the two measures, like the Liberals like got like 30% more like seats than there's like popular vote like would have indicated. So like what is like one method to calculate apportionment of like seats under like the proportional representation? Well, there's something called the D'Hondt method, which is like named after like Belgian mathematician Victor D'Hondt, and basically we have this formula here where like V is like the total votes cast for like the party like in that specified like political entity, and I say entity because it doesn't have to be like a national wide like vote count. Whereas like S is like the total number of seats allocated for like the party in that particular entity. And if this is a pure like PR system, whereas like there are no mixtures like with like first past the post, then it's initially set to S is initially set to 0 for all parties. So we have like a calculation example here. So why are you asking like in this example from 2016 like Scottish Parliament in the Glasgow region, why the SNP like didn't have like any like additional MSPs like elected or like seats granted? That's because they already took all of like the non-constituency first past the post like MSPs. So whereas there are 7 like regional seats to be proportioned. So basically, if we go back to the formula, their quotient begins with their vote share divided by 10 for the SNP, whereas all the other parties like begin with like the vote count divided by 1 because like they didn't get any constituency like seats that time around. So basically, you go down go down each row like and basically take like the 7 most the 7 largest numbers in that as how like the seats are allocated under like the D'Hondt method, or I should say like in this case what's called like the mixed member like, proportional representation system, because that's what Scotland and like Germany uses, where they use a combination of like constituency like first past the post as well as like a regional proportional representation like system that goes by like a party list. So that's it's actually tied for like the app demo. Not going to go into basics of like how like how to create a like shiny app. There are plenty of like tutorials online, but so basically there's a toggle where like we like all the individual general elections like since 1921 to like the present, which was like September of last year, are like selected as options, and different regions. I mean, they sort of arbitrarily like selected, but I've based on like some news articles like that examined like this sort of like scenario. Basically, the regions are like Atlantic provinces, which are like 4 provinces like of like Newfoundland, Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and like Prince Edward Island, and British Columbia, Ontario, like Quebec, and then like the 3 northern territories, which are Yukon, Northwest territories like Nunavut, and like Prairie, which is Alberta, Saskatchewan, and like Manitoba. And then like the third toggle is.
I'm sorry. Are you, Kevin? Are you sharing your are we supposed to see like a visual right now, like the actual Shiny app?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No
Yeah, I
problem.
only shared my RStudio.
No problem at all.
Yeah. So
if you,
we're going just to repeat, like we have like the three toggle options here, like election year up to like the president, and going back to 1921, and then like the regions that I just mentioned, as well as like a national total, and then what like the voting system, and like so the regional PR is like basic proportional representation, straight proportional representation on like the that region's like number of seats. So it's not based on like a national total. And I also applied like a 5% minimum vote within that region. So like what we can see is that if we go to the last election, the PPC would have gotten like 12 seats like nationally under like regional PR, and like including like 4 seats in the prairies, which I assume would have been like the best region. Well, actually, Ontario is like the best one. Anyways, whereas the PPC actually like ran for the first time like in a general election like in the penultimate time, which like 2019, and as they didn't get like they didn't reach like the 5% like threshold in any of like the regions that we so defined, they would not have gotten seats under like this like more general like generous like regional PR system. And as I noted in my like abstract, like the type of scenario like where the party that received like the most like the largest share of the popular vote like nationally did not actually obtain like the most seats under like first past the post. So we can see that like the liberals got like 157 like to like 121 seats in 2019, and like a similar like result last time around, but they actually were like beaten by the conservatives by like one or like around like 1% of the vote nationally. And so that actually like bears out here with like the where the hypothetical like totals under like regional PR like would mean that the conservatives like would theoretically have like come on top, barring any sort of like like power sharing agreements as is currently in place. So we can go back to like 1993 example. Like, again, first past the post like near total wipeout for the PCs. But under like a regional PR like scenario, like PCs still have like a somewhat respectable like amount, like which is like 48 MPs, and like of course like the liberals like have like a large plurality, but no longer have like any form of majority. So actually had intended for this shiny dashboard to like have those sorts of bars for the party like results that you see in each of the provinces in this actual map from 2011. But that I did like run into encounter like some like GeoJSON like related like technical problems like along the way. And this is what happens when I try to account for the fact that none of it was not a separate like territory until like sometime in 1999. And like this is what happened when I had attempted to remove the border between Northwest territories and like Nunavut, because like Nunavut was part of like Northwest Territories like before 1999, and of course that borders like here and. So like some obviously shortcomings of the dashboard, besides like those technicalities I mentioned, is that like of course under like PR versus like first past the post, like party strategy like it would be like vastly different, because under first past the post there's the concept of like swing seats or like marginal seats or like marginal ridings. And in fact, like the last time around in Scotland, like the Arbor Party like only ran like list candidates, so that's additional PR candidates, and they did not run like any candidates in the first past the post like constituencies, and this second bullet point would have actually been like more relevant if I had like introduced like another like metric, which was a like change from like the last election, and sometimes between like over the course of a parliament, like between like all sorts like by-elections and defections, and like resignations. Like the number of seats, like the party standings, like would actually be different, like from like as compared to like when the parliament was like first seated, like right after the general election, and like yeah, this does not take into account like redistributions similar to like the second point. So like redistributions like has occurred like similar like to like when U.S. congressional districts are like reapportioned. So basically, like boundaries and allocations, seat allocations between like provinces like are changed between like between censuses. And finally, but not least, these seat totals in the first past post like results don't actually like take into account some like party disciplinary actions, and there was actually one example like in Toronto like last time around federally.
Awesome, great present. Yeah, it's at the end of your presentation, Kevin.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. Congratulations. That was a great presentation. Any questions for Kevin? Does anyone have any questions? If not, I'll ask a question. Why would the which is from your presentation, like first past the post, is that, do you think that that is just a better or worse system than the standard quo, or it's hard to say?
Well, you mentioned the standard. Technically, like, if we're thinking globally, that like there really like isn't any standard, but like I assume you mean like alternatives.
Yeah.
I mean that's like that's hotly debated like question, and under like most proportional representation like systems, it's and sometimes like by design, as in Scotland and like Germany, like a single party like attain like a majority by itself is actually quite rare. In Scotland, since 1999, it's only happened like once in 2011, and so that's a common detraction for like, any sort of like proportional representation like system that like detractors claim that it like leads to unstable government. And that, I mean, that's like usually you're looking at like sorts of like Belgian type situations, or like where there's a lot of like regionalism, of course, between the two halves of that country, or like in this like most recent case, like Germany from the prior autumn. because there are like so many like possibilities in that. Like you had like the what came out was like the traffic light, which was red, yellow, green. Yeah, the traffic light. Like another commonly talked about was coalition arrangement was like the Jamaica um, Jamaica coalition, which would have kept like the Social Democrats like out, but like the kept uh, basically the Conservative Party, which is like the Christian Democrats and CSU, like remaining government. And like supporters of first past the post, like because like those constituencies are like have like a smaller geographic footprint, that like tends to like they argue that tends to like lead to like better representation, like, at least in terms of like finding like truly finding like local candidates that would be like attentive to like so they say like to like needs of like constituencies like within that constituency.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Let me stop the recording and then